Welcome to the Private Lenders Podcast with your hosts from Hard Money Bankers, Jason Balin and Chris Haddon. This podcast is sponsored by hardmoneymastermind.com.
Hey everyone, Chris and Jason here. Thank you for checking out the show. Before we get started, one quick announcement. Since the Inner Circle is on waiting list and people are still reaching out to us to see how they can work with us, do training, everything else, we're holding a 2-day virtual training event on February 5th and 6th. If you're interested, go check out hardmoneybusiness.com and you can make application, talk to Dave, see what it's all about. All right, let's dive in. We're talking about attorneys and loan documents. And okay, first, I want to mention a couple things that we see in the online mastermind and have even come across a little bit in the Inner Circle that is something we're going to advise against when it comes to doing loan documents for your deals. A couple things. One, to get a template of loan documents and just be like, okay, I can plug in the numbers for this particular deal here, and the title commitment that comes from the title company be like, all right, that looks fine to me too, and just close your own deals. That's what we're advising against. And then the other one, we're going to get to how to do it right in a second, but the other one that we see, I understand why it might seem right, and here's why it's not a good idea to have the title attorney doing title work do your loan documents. I know people have done this. They're like, oh, you're closing the deal, you're doing title, cool. Can you do me a mortgage and a note too? And they're like, yeah, charge you $1,000. Sure, we can do it. Not a good idea. They have a very, very clear conflict of interest because a title company and the title attorney that runs it, they work for the title insurer. That is their client. That is who they're representing in the transaction. They don't work for the buyer. They don't work for the seller. They don't work for the lender. They really work for the title insurer. So the policy that you're going to get, the lender's title insurance policy that you get from a title attorney is going to be 100% in their favor. If you don't know how to negotiate it, it's going to stay that way, and you're going to be at a disadvantaged position if you ever have a title issue.
We negotiate with the title company on the loan policy, on the title insurance policy, on every transaction, every single one. They give us a boilerplate policy, and we go in there and we say,
we meaning our attorneys.
Yeah, meaning our attorneys. Yeah, on every single transaction that is part of it. It's not like, oh, here's your title insurance policy. Cool, I'll take it. Right? Like that favors them, meaning in essence, if they write the policy, hey, we're not going to pay out for anything. And if you've been in this business long enough, you know that, you've had a title insurance claim if you've been in this business long enough, right? Because we've had, I don't know, dozens of them at
Sure.
this point.
We have a few going right now.
Dozens of them. And they happen for lots of reasons that you would never expect. Different conversation. The important part is attorney prepped loan docs is one side of this, and then title review on your behalf is the other part. And having a competent attorney that can do both of these is important. And like what Chris said, a common thing is like, oh, I'll just get an attorney to prep them, and then I'll just edit them for each transaction. Well, there are so many different variables that have to occur per transaction. If you're lending to entities, personal names, trusts, self-directed IRAs, multiple parties, who's guaranteeing, cross collateral. There's so many different instances, and really, by the time if your docs are even good, or when they can get contested in court. So if you don't have any defaults, you don't even know if you have a good loan doc set or possible. And like if you think about this, it's kind of laughable, right? Because it's such a big thing. You're lending hundreds of thousands of dollars on a transaction. You need to have somebody properly represent you in this particular deal. And I'm just saying anybody, like a reputable a reputable attorney that concentrates on commercial transactions, on business use commercial transactions. And to be honest, it's actually hard to find. Right. We've found some that we've utilized for a long period of time. And, there's lots of other members of the mastermind group and folks listening to this podcast that have good ones as well. But like, they're not just anywhere, right? Like a lot of folks you talked about this business, they think it's residential real estate and you might need a license. And, there might be, consumer laws that they have to follow. So you do need to find someone that obviously understands this game. But we're going to go through some of this stuff here in a second. That one of the law firms and attorneys that we work with, in essence, does to negotiate with the title company on our behalf. Anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, just I wanted to throw in, and we'll get to some specifics, that this is good news for anyone watching or listening. It means you don't have to data entry your loan docs anymore, right? It's probably not, even just talking business-wise, it's not even a good use of your time. And here's some more good news. You don't have to pay for it. You don't have to pay these legal fees. It is common in the industry, completely normal in the industry, for this to go on the settlement statement, and it's paid by your borrower. In residential, you're looking anywhere from $500 to $1,000, maybe $1,200 top end for doc prep and title review. It goes into the borrower's closing costs. They pay it. It's a no-brainer. It's an absolute no-brainer to have a proper attorney do this for you, right? I wanted to emphasize that before we get into some of the nitty-gritty.
Yeah. So, part of our doc set that we have is, one of the most important parts is called a closing instruction letter. And the closing instruction letter, that in essence is put together from our law firm who's doing our loan docs, it's closing instructions and document checklist. In essence, like, who's the lender, who's the borrower, who's the property, attention, in essence, demanding from the closing agent, title company, attorney who's doing the closing, lots of different things. These are all the documents that are in the file. All of these need to get signed, valid IDs, things like that. These are all the fees. Here's our requirements related to open taxes and water bills. Here's our escrow, reserve, and holdback requirements. Here's our hazard insurance requirements. Make sure that they have the real tight hazard insurance policy in place and it's paid. This is our loss payee. If it's an entity, this is what's required. How do we do disbursements and funding? No power of attorneys are allowed. We don't allow any we don't allow any power of attorneys. The 1099 has to be filled out. If there's any ground rent, this is what to expect. You also stating that you realize this is a commercial purpose loan and that there's a commercial purpose affidavit in this transaction. If you see anything that indicates it's not a commercial purpose loan, you need to notify us. No secondary financings allowed. Additional title requirements. I'm going to talk about title requirements here in a second. Here's everything that we need in our post-closing package after everything's done. And in essence, it outlines everything in the closing instructions of what needs to be done. And then they have to sign it. The closing agent signs it. Yep. And when we ever have a title claim, the first thing that is sent to our legal team or the attorneys doing the title claim is that, right? We send that to them, to the title company, and then there's no question marks of whose fault is this? What's the deal? It completely outlines it. And it's interesting because I feel like we've talked to a lot of folks in the mastermind group. Is like, wow, you do this on every transaction. It's like, well, we have the attorney that does loan docs and title review does it. I'm not touching anything. I'm just reviewing it and, getting CC'd on it. I mean, practicing law and title review and doing loan docs and being up to date on all the new documents that our doc package changes regularly. It's not a set it and forget it. It is changing. I'm always constantly looking in our loan docs as they get CC'd to me on new transactions. I'm like, oh crap, he added this anti-money laundering document. I didn't see that in the past. Or he's adding this particular license, exempt from licensing certification in order to get our deed of trust on record, right?
Yep.
Things
they
like that.
Put in a new loan agreement.
Yeah.
Not all that long ago.
And as you've been in business and you've had, contested loan docs and things have occurred, you're adding to them and adding to them and adding to them. The law firm's adding to them. So let's talk about some title review stuff real quick, because I think that's very underestimated. I think people just think it's, oh, they just do my loan docs. But that's literally like one part of it is loan docs. So one of the paralegals that does, for one of the attorneys that we do loan docs with, in essence, they send 2 emails out to the title company. One has the loan docs with them. One has like a marked up title commitment. So you've probably seen a title commitment that comes over to you. I'm sure you probably reviewed it. You probably don't really know what many of those things are on there. You think that they're standard.
And neither do we.
Yeah. I'm looking at one of them right now, a normal title commitment that came over. And all of page 3 is crossed out. All of page 4 is crossed out. All of page 5 is crossed out. It says, no, there'll be no exceptions to our policy. Take all of that out. Now, some of these might be low risk, like, I don't know, any environmental protection liens. And let's say you're lending on like a townhouse. Chances are like whatever. That's probably low risk. One of the things that title companies will always put in there is some sort of survey endorsement. And they'll put a survey endorsement in there because usually on residential properties, you don't order a survey, right? Because it's expensive to order a survey. A lot of the times they won't do it. And we'll say, no, you need to take that out. And sometimes it's an argument and negotiation. And it's like, listen, you can leave that in for the borrowers or the client buyers policy, but for the lender policy, we can't do it. You're going to have to take that out. And they typically do. So like, there's a lot of things that like they might just put in there to cover their butt, but you ask them to remove it and you negotiate with them, and chances are they will. And if they don't, you make a business decision. The important part is let the attorneys that are representing you and your capital and your capital investors. One thing to quick note, sidetrack a little bit, is if you're raising your own if you're raising capital and you're using other people's money for these deals, like, it behooves you to make sure you have an attorney doing doc prep and title review, because the last thing you want is for something to go wrong and you can't file a title insurance claim or you can't foreclose on a property because you did the freaking loan docs, and now they're going to sue you because you were the one that did the loan docs. So I don't know, we don't have to go on a tangent with that, but whatever.
You get the point.
You get the point. Okay. So let me just kind of paraphrase this real quick. So in essence, they write, hey, the firm represents Hard Money Bankers as the lender. Here's our proposed markup. Please note outstanding mortgages, taxes, liens, blah, 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 blah. And also we can't accept to any of these things, and there's things that, like, I don't even know what half these things are. Waiver of arbitration, street assessment, Alta 1-06, environmental protection liens we talked about, restrictions, easement, minerals, Alta 9-6, and then like it's on and on of stuff. And I'll tell you that, like, the good news is that like 90 to 95% of the stuff, if they're asked for it, they'll remove it immediately, the title company, which is good, but you need to know what to ask to remove. It gets removed. And a lot of this is also deal by deal, jurisdiction, municipality, state, county, city. Like, there's different things for each one of those areas. So even if you're only lending in one state, you're lending in different zip codes, counties, jurisdictions, municipalities, things like that. So things change. But the ones that do need to be negotiated, or typically the attorney will call us and be like, hey, Jason, so there's an easement from a telephone line that in essence runs through the street of the property. They're not going to give us title insurance over that. Are we comfortable with it? And I'll say, okay, well, what's the risk? Well, this is the risk. We talk through it. And then we make a business decision. Chris and I make a business decision if we want to proceed or not. But like, they're bringing it to our attention and we're talking to them on this. We're not going blind into this. So I think if we haven't kind of proved the point, and I mean, neither one of us are attorneys, we're not giving legal advice, but we've done almost 4,000 transactions, and every single one of them has had attorney prepared loan docs and title review. And we've had lots of contested foreclosures, and we've had lots of title insurance claims that we've been paid out on. So it's worth it. And again, there's always a layer of risk in this business. So eliminate this particular risk by, using somebody that's qualified to do this.
Yeah, we're not giving legal advice, but we're definitely giving lender advice. That's kind of what we're here for. And that being said, be a smart one, be a safe one, do this right, protect yourselves whenever you can. And in this case, that means getting the right kind of attorney to negotiate your title insurance for you and to prepare your loan docs for each transaction. Do the right thing on this one, guys. Until next time on the Private Lenders Podcast, we will see everyone inside hardmoneymastermind.com.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Private Lenders Podcast. Please note that the opinions stated by all the speakers on this show are only opinions and not intended for legal, financial, or accounting advice. Please make sure to always check with your own legal, accounting, and financial professionals. If you enjoyed this episode of the Private Lenders Podcast, we'd appreciate it if you would spread the word. Make sure to check out hardmoneymastermind.com, the #1 free community for new and experienced private and hard money lenders.